Hello.
Hi. Somebody put a meanie face already.
Who's mad at us?
It's kind of early for that.
Is it?
I've been with y'all all day.
Hayden's over there.
That means it was Hayden. No.
That's not me.
Oh my goodness, it's still Tuesday.
It is still Tuesday.
Yes, holy
It's a continuation of the
smokes.
Tuesday that was this morning.
Yes.
And I'm
My watch is having one of those times where it keeps showing me notifications and I can't see them.
I'm having a day like that too.
Maybe your computer is sharing.
We're doing good today. So
Thank you. My watch is trying to help us now. That was fantastic.
I don't know if you guys could hear that, but
It said I didn't get that.
it's trying to participate.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
It's not number 5 though.
Holy smokes. Well, we both had an interesting weekend. We did some sewing.
I did some sewing. You
Yeah.
did some sewing.
I did.
I did some computer stuff that didn't work so well. So my 4th of July was very relaxing in the aspect of I didn't really do anything, but stressful in that everything I did try to do didn't really work like I wanted it to. But, you know, it was a nice relaxing weekend. It was, I don't think it would have helped if I had come here. So I did contemplate that at one point. Maybe if I just get up and go to work, maybe everything would, you know.
Because you have more stuff.
More stuff and
Easier
just,
to get to.
Well, I was trying, just no distractions, nobody, you know, hey, would you,
Or the dog.
or the dogs or the whatevers, but it was just that darn computer.
Yeah.
You know, when computers decide they're not going to do what you want them to do,
Holy smokes.
they really do that well.
Yeah, it's super annoying. They're supposed to make our
Technology
life
is a wonderful thing when it works.
better. I'm still trying to grasp that. How
Yeah.
mostly hate, less love.
But that's okay.
Yeah, so
I'm going
I
to get there.
stitched out some samples of the Perfectly Pieced. We haven't gotten our goodie box yet, but we did get the files.
So she got to use some stash fabric and she stitched all of those out in the different sizes, which is awesome because, you know, sometimes it's hard to picture, well, you know, what would that look like if it were this size or whatnot. So she did 2, 4, 6, 8.
Yeah.
Who do we appreciate?
Lisa.
Sarah!
And then you've got quite the stack of
I have
cup
a
of shear
stack.
blocks over there.
I stitched just a little bit. So let's, before we get started on the whole
Yeah.
computer stuff over here.
Let's
Not
go over
computer.
to that.
It's embroidery machine stuff. But
'Cause
let's talk about this stuff
can't
here
break
first.
that.
Because, yeah, all we have to do is...
Hayden.
So, you talk. I'll
Okay.
hold. You tell me what to pick up.
So these are just my stash versions of Perfectly Pieced. So this one is the 2-inch one, and I did the pre-quilting on the 2-inch one. I did 6 of these just so that you could kind of get like what it would look like if you continued the pattern as opposed to just stopping at the corner. It's not real pretty on the back.
You want me to actually
yeah,
share
go
this
ahead
part?
and flip it over.
So it's a little bit of a hot mess in this little area right there.
Yeah, so you definitely, you need to press the seams open. They don't, if I had one complaint about this project, because I am a piecer beyond this, not having the ability to pair my seams in the direction that I want them to go is my only complaint about this, because you have no choice but to press your seams open because it will not lay nicely without that. So I still think that we talked about maybe trying some different stabilizers in the back to see if that would work.
So you did snip.
I didn't. That just is how.
That's just how they are?
Yeah, by the time you start.
Okay.
Yeah, it just kind of comes out.
Okay. All right.
So I did not have a whole lot of luck trying with regular sewing thread. So the seams are done with embroidery thread, embroidery bobbin thread.
When you generally piece, even in the hoop, you generally do use sewing thread when you piece in the hoop.
I do.
Right.
Yes. And I was not able to make that successfully work. What happened was I got a lot of thread breaks, or it didn't pick up after it cut.
Especially by doing the quilting in that the smaller pieces.
Yes. Yep. And so this is the 4-inch block, and I basically just tried to put them in a variety of different layouts so that you could kind of see what it would look like when you twisted and turned your blocks away. On the little one, I did change the center block and made it blue so that it matched the stripe, because again, your fabric placement makes a big
difference on what it's going to look like when you put them together.
Exactly. It makes a huge difference.
If you just have that, then it doesn't really matter what you have.
Right.
It's just a square
It's just
that
a
you
square.
can do whatever you want. But when you're trying to make this, then it really matters what you have where so that you're getting a specific look.
Yeah,
And that's what this blue here made that look.
Absolutely.
Bold.
I had put white in that corner.
Like here.
On that one, and I really, or like this corner, you can see there's a little more white in the corner there. When I butted those up together, it didn't look as nice with white in the center, which is why on that little one I changed it. It wasn't very pleasing to the eye. So just a bunch of different ways. I ended up quilting the 2-inch and the 6-inch versions, just so that you could see what they would look like.
So in the files, this is one of the block by block or clear blue tile options, and then there's also a secondary quilting option.
So the secondary quilting
option, it was just kind of like a doodle of a chain kind of thing, if I remember right.
Is not built in.
It's not built into the blocks. It
Right.
would just be a
You
put
would
it on
add-
top of.
This was like the pre-built version.
Right. But there was an addition. You do also get an additional quilting option.
Yes.
It's just not like pull it up and boom, it's done all together.
Right, and it looks more like the outside squiggles without the circles in the center, the circle and the line.
Right. It's these guys, but kind of doodly everywhere.
And not really as doodly overall as it really is kind of, it does kind of go around the outside of the block, sort of frames it in a way, so it's not like a random stipple. It's like, it's a programmed stipple, I guess is the right one. But yeah,
larger version of this, but of course different layout.
Yeah,
so
turned inside
the other
versus
way.
the
So
outside,
that's that same block, but different fabric, as she said. That same block here, going with white instead of blue there.
Yep.
Turned in another direction. But this would be a great, centerpiece to something really simply done. Back it, bind it, boom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And then this is the big version.
This is our 4 and our 8s.
Yep.
So again, a different layout option. So.
Yep. And the one thing on the big one, because if you did quilt it or if you didn't quilt it, if you flip that around, you've got a lot of no-show mesh back there.
So sorry.
You do have to be very, very careful when you are pressing. So if you are pressing with a no-show mesh that sometimes doesn't like the heat, you do have to be really cautious, because there's a lot of stabilizer in the back there just hanging out for the iron to get hit at. So I thought
it kind of sticks to the iron.
It does
when it's not really doing a job somewhere.
Right, and someone is probably going to want to use a little bit of water there to get their seam to be a little bit flatter. And again, if you're using no-show mesh and you're using a particular brand and it does tend to shrink up if you get it a little bit wet, you're really going to notice that in your seams. It's going to shrink up.
It's going to pull that in.
Yeah, so you do want to just be cautious about that.
Yep.
I was thinking about maybe trying the larger block using maybe a heavyweight tearaway, so it would tear away. Right. You don't really need the stabilizer underneath it.
You just need something to build the block on.
You just need something to build the block on. So
right.
It might be fun, and I might try that with the actual pieces when they come, different styles of stabilizer. You would not want to use anything else.
We talked about heavy tearaway. We also talked about Kimberbell's extra light,
which
ultra. That's what it's called. Ultra lightweight. So the super, super light cutaway.
Yep. Adding less bulk in your seam would be great. Jane's question is, what about adding muslin as a stabilizer base? So here's the thing.
Still adding more.
Right? The problem with adding anything else besides just the seams is going to bulk up the area. Muslin isn't going to be any thinner than the stabilizer, the no-show mesh that we had. It's probably not going to be any more cost effective than the stabilizer that I had, and it most definitely will shrink because it is definitely 100% cotton. So you could definitely use it. I don't know that there would be any pro or con to it. You might still have all of the same issues that I had, which really is bulk, because you can't control where your seam allowance goes. And the bulk is worse on the smaller versions because there's way more
yep, in the way.
In the way, yes.
Yep.
But really, aside from the 2-inch is the hardest because it has the most, you're a 1/4-inch seam and a 2-inch, there's 6 seams in there. You've got a lot of bulk when you're trying to get it.
Can't, it's not like the seams don't shrink in accordance with the 2, 4, 6, 8. You still have a 1/4-inch seam everywhere. The seam is still the same.
Yeah.
So lots more going on the back.
Definitely.
A lot less place to put it.
But still super easy and very efficient. And I believe they all sewed together perfect. So, you do still have to.
These are perfect points and.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You still have to cut out after you're done. And the ones with the batting, they did draw in. So you were cutting just on the outside of the lines.
Okay.
And the ones that I didn't have batting were basically cutting right through the lines. And you can kind of see the difference on the edges, like it's not, you're cutting right through the line, whereas there's still a line.
You can see that. Yeah, let me, so if you can see that, you can see the outside stitch line here. That's because the batting, it pulled in a little bit where it's right on the line here. The stabilizer is actually loose
right through
because
it,
it's right through that stitch line versus right on the outside of the stitch line.
So just a little bit of difference, and that's totally to be expected.
Right, absolutely.
They really pulled in the batting line in this one by like 1/8 of an inch.
Okay, we've talked about doing that. So
yes.
Yeah, that's certainly, you don't want is having a whole bunch of bulk when you're actually sewing them together because they're not going to open as nice and they're not going to lay as flat.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And in an instance like this, because you have more seams, right, it's a piece block. So, in those center sections, gosh, there's all kinds of seams in those areas.
So I certainly have done piecing in the hoop before.
Mm-hmm.
This is nowhere near as bulky as I've had it in some other places.
Right.
This is, there's fabric here. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not under. There's fabric here, but it's not like, holy crow,
no,
like I have had it before.
Yeah.
There's definitely, you've got a crosshair there. There's no doubt, but it's not like it's going to sit up like I've had in some other.
And if you press to one side, it definitely would.
Right.
So, it still feels pretty strong overall. Like I tugged on it a little more than I would normally tug on something.
Yeah.
But which is kind of what I was most concerned about, because the only thing holding the seam is kind of that little stitch that goes back and forth. It's not quite the same as when you press to one side. You don't have, 2 layers of fabric really holding your stitch. But overall, I would say that this should make people very successful with their stitching, and they should really enjoy it. The littler ones, the 2-inch and the 4-inch, they were really, really quick to stitch.
Yeah.
It took a little longer to stitch the bigger ones, but they were bigger blocks.
Out of curiosity, did you use an iron or?
I did. I used an iron almost all the time.
Right in the hoop.
In the hoop, yes.
Yep.
But a lot of fun, and I am looking forward to playing around with the actual fabrics when they come, the white and blue fabrics. I think that'll be a lot of fun to play around with.
And we checked, our boxes have been labeled, so it appears that they've packaged. They should be leaving Utah any moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as soon as we get our hands on everything, we'll figure out what we're going to do with fabrics, and we'll let you guys know.
Yep. So we'll have another session where we just talk about that. So
Yep.
Now let's talk about Cup of Cheer.
So Cup of Cheer showed up, speaking of mail.
Right.
So we do have the CDs, the books,
the CDs,
and
the embellishment kits,
and we finished all of the quilting designs, and those have been, a bunch of them got tested out this weekend.
Yeah.
And we did some test stitching last week before we went home for the weekend. So everything's been checked out. We think that there's no problems, hopefully. And
yeah, Hayden is working
Hayden's
on.
been bundling all day.
Yep.
He's working hard over there. Big cheesy grin on his face.
Yeah.
And
so it's likely that you'll receive some sort of notification today.
Yep.
That they're ready for pickup
or getting ready to go out.
To be mailed.
You should get your label created email. So I did quite a bit of stitching this weekend. This was actually the one that we stitched here. So this one was cheating. I had that one done already.
Yay.
So that is the steam that coming off the top of one of the cups. And then I think I have this upside down. I didn't do anything that had embellishments because I didn't have the embellishment kit. So I had to really pick and choose which ones I picked. But you can get a little sneak peek of some of the quilting.
Oh, look at the little light bulbs.
There's your little light bulbs. And this one I snagged from Kimberbell. That's just some straight lines. That one was one of theirs. So this spells Mary. The E has an embellishment on it, so I did not do that yet. But I did the light bulbs on these two here, so you can see the stitching in there. And look at that stitching in that fill. It's just stunning. They really did a nice job, and they stitch out absolutely gorgeous. Obviously, I have some trimming to do. I got rid of all of the stabilizer, but I haven't done the actual trim downs yet. And then this is one of our other quilt
your little candy ribbon
there. So we've got that guy here, and then there's snowflakes. These, I did not see anything in there about adding tearaway, but I did. There is a lot of stitching. So I did float heavy tearaway behind these guys here. There's a total of 4. They are not all together in the quilt. They're kind of all over the place. But there is quite a bit of stitching in there. So I definitely recommend that you guys throw some tearaway underneath in there to help make sure that they stay nice and smooth. So it didn't say to do that, but I definitely recommend that you do. And then these will create, and I wrote on some of them and then I cut them all apart. Now I don't know which one's which. That was not very smart. But they will create.
Oh, like a little wreath?
The wreath, and then there's a 3D bow that goes on there. And again, I have a little bit of trimming to do, but look at the little details. We've got little berries, the little white, a nice branch in there. It's very, very well stitched out.
Super cute.
Super, super well done. There wasn't anything that I kind of went, huh. Nope, not one yet. So there's a couple of different stars. There was a total of 3. All a little bit different in coloring, of course. And again, they're spaced out in different areas there. So we've got a couple different quilt patterns that we used for that. Just some simple lines. And then we have an echo of the star. A little off center because can't have anything too straight.
No.
Why would we want
cute.
that? So we have some thread colors all written down.
Yes.
Got all that tracked down. And then this home believes, and there are little Christmas trees behind there. I'm not showing that very well. I don't know if you can see that.
A little bit.
Quite well.
Sometimes it's hard to see white and white, isn't it? Yeah, I can see them a little bit in the bottom.
So that is one of our squares there. Snagged this one again from Kimberbell just because I could. So this one says, "'Tis the season to snuggle." The picture showed this to be stitched in pink. Of course, I chose the teal because I don't like pink. So that got changed a little bit. There is a second mitten to be stitched, but that one has a lot of embellishments on the other. There's stuff that goes on the other one. So the other, to wait on. But we've got satin stitches and then some decorative stitching. I did put pink in there.
I see.
I contemplated putting something else, but I
That's
put pink
cute.
in there. So very, very cute. And that is one of ours with holly leaves back behind there. And then this guy here, it says deck the halls with the number. And so there'll be some embellishments that go on the top of that with a little swish and swirl around there. And then we have the car that goes at the bottom of the quilt, and these two will go right next to one another. So this sits right here, and they will, this is supposed to be, it actually explains this is car exhaust. I was like, oh. That was exact. Oh, yep, that was exactly what I said, but I thought this was
My
hilarious.
car definitely exhausts words.
Right. When it says, yep, all the way down. So, did you have one of these growing up?
We did not have a station wagon. We had some vehicle that was station wagon-ish, but it wasn't an actual station wagon.
Ours wasn't red, but I sat right there, and we called that the back seat, and we could sit back there and watch, you know, face the back.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. And we had phone booths wrapped in fabric for car seats, for little boosters, so we could see out the windows, and we'd sit in that seat there and sit on our, wrapped in fabric.
Wrapped in fabric.
Yeah, that's what we had. So cute little cars. Now there is a
How did we
substitute.
survive our
I
childhood?
don't know, right? So this is one option you have to have, of course, the larger hoop size for. If you don't have that, there is a smaller, it's a Volkswagen Bug, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Very cute
is very
as
cute.
well. Station wagon had more of a
Meaning
for me from growing up. But I've always liked the Volkswagen Bugs. But if you only have the one option, of course, there you go. And then this will go right after that. All hearts come home for Christmas. And there is a heart that will go here. I believe that is number 24, right? Maybe that one's 25, I think. Anyways, so those two go together. So I did the same quilting pattern on those, which is our houses, because that's home.
Yep.
So those are the houses that are there. And that is everything that I got done, which it doesn't feel like that much, but it sure took a little hot second there to get all of those. So that's my start.
Yeah,
So
good
now I have an
start.
embellishment kit, so I have free reign. I can do whatever block I want now. So, and this is the, I can just do it here.
Okay.
This is the zippered bag that we have to put all of the embellishments in once they are there. So as you're going through your advent calendar, you pull out each day. Oh my goodness.
We are apparently not in on the funnies
We
over
missed
there.
something. I'm feeling
We
very
hear
left,
you.
feeling very left out. Oh my goodness. So anyway, these are an option if you would like to do that. And there is a file, of course, that says Cup of Cheer Advent Quilt is exactly what that says. And you can stitch that if you would like. The file is included with the quilt. And
If you pre-ordered, you're going to
you
get an email
pre-ordered-
with a special coupon code.
to buy this beautiful sugar plum colored one if you would like that. So that is coming your way.
Yeah, and we are pretty much out of our pre-made kits. So
We are.
we will probably have more available, but the buy-in to get our special quilting ended yesterday.
Yep.
We said that because they're officially here. And we will probably have, if you're watching this later on, we'll probably have more kits and embellishment kits and patterns and all that stuff coming. But we're kind of at our first.
We are capped out
large-
pretty much.
Yes.
So thank you to everyone who jumped on that boat, because it's a very full boat. And we thought we had so many.
I know, we thought we were going to
We thought
die. I know.
We thought we had so many kits. And bless all of you. Thank you so much for coming
Ordering.
on this trip with us. And
It'll be fun.
it'll be a
We'll
lot
have
of fun.
another video just on it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There's so many things. And so obviously all of the blocks that I've done so far are very simple because they're the ones that don't have any stuff on them, because all of the stuff I didn't have.
Yep.
So we'll discuss stuff as it comes. There's some hook and eyes. There's you know, actual hooks that you attach things with, and there's definitely embellishment things that are a little bit different than normal. There's pockets, there's zippers, there's all kinds of things that we're not used to doing, especially on a quilt. So we will definitely be discussing how-tos as we go through, and we're here to answer questions for all of you. So thanks again for all of you who jumped on that first round.
Yep.
And we will let you know as soon as we have more available. And what do we have, like maybe, do we have any? 2
or 3.
I think 2, I think is
Yeah.
all we have left. So, but we have more fabric on order, and we still have a couple fat quarter bundles and things. So we've got a little bit of stuff, but we thank you again. So
Yes. let's move right into
let's move into what's going on
today's fun stuff.
here.
So I am going to switch the video over here. So this is, we're sitting at a Solaris, which would give you, if you were a Solaris, a Brother Luminaire, an Altair, a Destiny, a Dream, a Meridian,
XJ1,
XJ1, XE1.
E1.
They're going to look relatively similar to what
Close.
we have here. Not exactly, but very, very similar to this. And a lot of the things...
There's even some other machines that will have some of the things that we're going to talk about. So if you have a machine that has a ability to sew with the embroidery arm on, a lot of those have a lot of these features. So that's kind of a cutoff, if you will.
Oversized machine, sort of.
The larger of the machines. Yep.
So we're just gonna go to our little pocket here, and I'm gonna pull up. I'm actually gonna pull up. I have Cup of Cheer, I think, designs in there, and I have the Perfectly Pieced. But I thought the Perfectly Pieced ones would be a good one to show duplicating, because there's so many lines, and it would be super confusing not to do it in the manner that we're going to show.
Okay.
All right, so I'm just going to go to my USB stick here, and I'm going to select. So I'm going to make this bigger so that y'all can see that a little bit. So these are the embroidery designs that you get if you join Perfectly Pieced. And you basically have a 2-inch, a 2-inch, a 4, a 4, a 6, a 6, a 8, and 8. And so you have a quilted and a non-quilted one. But when you bring these designs up on your screen, it's just a bunch of lines, and it's really hard to tell what's what. So let's do a 2-inch block, because that will give us lots of things to play with. So I've got a small block here, and I'm just going to set it to the screen here. So you can see the list of colors on the side over here. It's really, really long. And it would be very confusing to figure out what's what, because it just is like the same.
Pretty much alternates colors.
Right, it's just the same color over and over again.
It's telling the machine to stop, and that's really all it's telling the machine. So outside of seeing a line, and it doesn't even really clearly tell you which line is where outside. You know, you see a diagonal line. Well, which diagonal line?
Yes.
So it can be confusing to see the screen.
Absolutely. So we're going to go up to the edit button here, and we have some different options here. We have, we could size, move, rotate. We don't want to use those, but we do want to use a version of copy and paste. So this button right here in the corner, so over here, the one day I didn't paint my nails, right? They're not pretty on here. So this one over here.
Let me rip mine off. No, I'm kidding.
This is your traditional copy and paste button. So there's a little square, and then there's a little diagonal, like dotted box off to the side diagonally. That is your typical duplicate or copy paste option. And then we have this button under here, which Lisa has lovingly called the 9 square button, because
Why?
there's 9 squares.
9 squares.
What we determined, this is called the border, endless border or something, something
I
like
don't
that.
know. I promptly forgot what it was actually
It
called.
will not be called 9 square in your booklet.
It won't.
Just so so don't look for 9 square.
No.
But it will be a button that looks like it has 9 squares. So I'm going to do it the normal non-9 square way. So everybody who has a Brother or a Babylock
We'll see what it will look like if you just push the copy button.
If you just push the copy button. So I pushed the copy button, and what happened was I got a slightly skewed, offset version of this design. And most of you, if you have this feature, you do have a button to touch your screen. So I'm just going to actually tap it, and I'm going to move it over. And so I've got there's like little red dots around it because that's the version that happens to be highlighted right now. If I tap this one, I got those little red dots. It's just showing me that is the one that I have.
Active selection.
Right, I have that one selected. So if I put these two here, hi Dad, and we go to embroider, what's going to happen is I've got all of my designs on here, and it tells me that I have 24 designs or threads.
Color stops.
Color stops. And so if I were to forward through my design, up in the corner here, I've got a little picture of what it is, but here's where it can get confusing. Like this line and this line, they almost look exactly alike.
They're right next to each other. Which line's which?
So which one did I really want to do? This manner, if I wanted to do the top piece and then I wanted to go down and do that same feature at the bottom one, I would have to scroll through all of these features until I get all the way back up here to like stitch number 14. So how
do you know that you got the right line?
Right, it can be very confusing, and then you got to go back to stitch number 2, and then you got to go forward to stitch number 15, and then back to stitch number 3. So it can be very, very confusing if you have something that has a lot of lines like this that's really not defined about what it is going back and forth.
Right.
So instead of doing it this way, I like the delete button.
I like undo.
So I have the icon here that is still selected. So this is that original design. So we're going to go and we're going to touch this 9 square button right here. And I've got some choices over here. I think for a lot of people, this part can be the most confusing part about.
This is where we lose you guys on the phone.
Yes. So what this is telling my machine is which direction do I want to go? I want to go down, or do I want to go like left
Over.
and right? So this version or this version.
Vertical or horizontal?
So we're going to go here first, and then this button here is, do I want to go, do I want to add one, or do I want to go and take one away? So here we go. I've added one. Now I have 2, right? If I hit this button here, it takes 1 away. So this is math. So we add. So if I added a bunch and then I was like, no, that was too many, I can take 1 away. Okay? Yep. So what the button next to it over here does is it adds that same thing to the other side. So I duplicated the whole thing. Okay? So let's reset and go back to the beginning. So here, add. Right? And now it's telling me I'm outside of my frame. And the reason it's telling me that it's outside of my frame because it's trying to add it to the top. And I've reached the top of my button over here. So I have 2 choices at this point. I could decide that 2 is enough. I could manually move my design over, or I could go to my move button over here and I could recenter the design.
You could add to the bottom.
I could add to the bottom, yes. But we're only talking about the left side right now, so let's not confuse them. So no. Next, we'll do that side. So again, we went to the center so we can add again. So now I can't add, but if I go back, I would be able to add. So you guys can see what's happening, right? We run out of room at the top, so if we recenter our design, we would be able to go back to the beginning. So I'm going to reset back to the center here. So my design is back in the center. Now we played with the plus and minus buttons over here. I'm still on this one, and now we have this other set. So what these do is they go below.
Yep.
All right, so that plus is at the top, the plus is at the bottom. So it's just giving us an
just
option.
The opposite.
And it really doesn't matter. Again, we are going to get to a point where we can't add any more because we run out of space. But if we center ourselves, we would still have the ability to
continue
add
doing the same thing.
More designs until we just run out of room. Now, I technically still have some space that I could do. So if I wanted to move my whole design up and add another one, I could. But at some point, I really am going to need to space these apart.
Right.
Because I really don't want the designs to be right on top of each other. So I need to make sure that I leave myself some wiggle room.
So kind of like when you're doing applique, you know you need space for your fabric to oversit on those lines. You know your fabric piece is going to be larger than that piece. So you need to give yourself some room to work.
Yep, and you need to pay attention to the size that your design is in retrospect to the size of the hoop that you're going to be doing.
Right.
So if you were using a 6x10 hoop, you would not be able to do that.
We've already blown past it.
That's right. You would need to at least take one of these out because you have too many. So when I did my 6 little ones, I did them in a 6x10 hoop, and I made the design basically 10 inches tall. And then what I did was I duplicated sideways. So we're going to show you how to do that. So we've got the designs here. I'm going to take one away so that we're working with 3, because we're going to say that we're working in a 6x10 hoop, because that's pretty easy to do the math. Right now, my design is 8.44 inches tall. So the buttons down here are going to help me spread the design apart. So what that means is it's going to pull this design and this design apart from the one in the center. So you can kind of see they're starting to gape a little bit. And so I'm just going to do this until I get to the 10 inches that I want to work with. So mine was actually at 10.03 yesterday, so that works. So I've got 10 inches here. Now, I still need to center my design because it's moved all over the place. So I'm going to tap my little center button here and make sure that this goes back. So I work, if I'm going to do 2 sides, I usually work in 1 row and then duplicate the whole row.
Yep.
So I've got this one here, and now I want to make 1 more row. So I'm going to go over to the next button, and I'm just going to hit the plus button. And now I have 2 rows, and I want to, again, space those out. So I'm, again, paying attention to what I have up here because I'm going to work in a 6x10 hoop, so I don't want this to be any bigger than that. So I've got 6.03 by 10.02. Now, if I tried to just set this design to my embroidery screen right now, and I put my 6x10 hoop on, it would tell me that I need a larger hoop. And the reason that it would need a larger hoop is because this design isn't centered in my hoop. Again, I'm going to pop that little guy over there and recenter my design.
So no matter what you're doing, the last thing that you should do before leaving this page is hit that dot. Doesn't matter how many you have on screen. The last thing that you should do is hit that.
Yes. You can always move the entire design to fit where you need in the next screen, but this is the best way to make sure that it's going to fit in your space. So we could hit the OK button, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit embroidery so that we can kind of see what happened. Okay, so now looking at the screen right here, we have 6 squares in there that are 6 2-inch perfectly pieced things. Before, when I wanted to get to the certain color, I had to forward through everything.
Right.
Now the machine has gone and color sorted those for me. So it's reading this as a single color. When I go to start the start button on my machine, even though there's all of these different colors, there will not be a stop between these. It's just going to go from this one to 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 this one. All 6 number 1s would be done at the same time.
Right.
Anything to add to that?
Not really.
Not really. That's our favorite thing.
That's pretty much that's the bomb right there. Is what that is. So it's just such a it's a relief. You don't have to do any sort of color sorting because the machine does it for you. A lot of times I will make, depending upon what it is that I'm doing, this isn't necessarily the exact, but like batting wise, if these had batting in them, you could put one whole piece of batting down because the tack down would be the same for all of them.
Exactly.
So you wouldn't have to have the 2.5-inch pieces and put them down for each piece. You just put one whole piece of batting down, it tacks it all down, then you trim it all. So rather than having those separate pieces, you can actually save quite a bit of time in the prep as well, depending upon the project, because that same piece of fabric or batting or whatnot can be, rather than having to do subcuts, depending on what the project is. That doesn't work on folded fabric stuff.
It does not.
But sometimes it does.
If you had a quilting design that you wanted to add now, we could do the same process in the add button and add it over top so that it was the last option that we did. That might be confusing here, but let's say if we wanted to add our initial on top of these.
Yep.
So if I go to the return button here, I still have all of my same features.
Yep.
So if I go to the add button and I go to the letter, and do you have a favorite font?
Not particularly.
Not particularly? Let's pick this one because it's right there. And we decide that we're going to put L on all of these. So when I hit the set button, you can see over here that I have the little L button and the L button, the little the L is highlighted. So if I go into my edit screen, I've got that same 9 square button. So if I tap that button, because that is highlighted, I will be able to do the same thing. So I could do the same thing. I could add my 3 designs. I can space them out. And then move them over. And I could even put these. Where are you going? I don't know. I'm a little drunken sailor over here. So I could even put these kind of in the corner where I want them to be.
Yep.
You can get really particular if you want. And then I can do the same thing with the other side. I can do my duplicate of that and I can pull it apart. And so it's pretty good. We could go through this and make it as
perfect, but we don't need to for today's purposes. You guys get the idea.
And here we are.
You can continue to build on top. So we now have 78 color changes.
We do.
And the last 6 would be those letter L's.
Exactly. They would be just that version. They're all going to be combined together. Should have just went the other way. So L, 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 a lot of L's.
Lots of me.
And then
I'm everywhere.
She's everywhere. So you can see how using that different feature is a really nice opportunity to color sort everything.
I really like the 9 square button.
Yes.
It's your friend, guys, really.
And it's not hard to use once you kind of have the concept of how it works and why it beeps at you.
It beeps a lot if you're using it because every time you push something, it's going to beep at you. It's not a bad beep. It's okay. Let it beep. That just means you're doing something.
Absolutely.
That's good. It's a fantastic thing. I have done so many things and it just saves time.
It really does.
It's
fantastic.
When you have a multi-needle, it changes those threads for you. So it's not as important, but I've even used them on multi-needles because color changes take time, no matter whether the machine's changing the thread, stopping, cutting, and moving, or whether you're doing it. It still takes time. But every time that you have to come back to a machine and, okay, it stops and waiting for you to change thread, that's a huge amount of time because, I don't know about you guys, but I try to do other things, especially if there's long color changes, right? If there's a 15-minute color, I hit go and I might not leave the room, but I'm doing something. I'm not just sitting there staring at it. And I'm never right there the second it's done. But if it can do 6 of them, hey, that's fantastic, right? So that's the beauty of this button, is that it allows you to do multiples of the same thing. And I would be surprised if none of you have done 2 of something.
Right, for sure.
I mean, it doesn't have to be 6. It can be 2.
It can be 2.
It's still beneficial.
It's still gonna, yes,
it is absolutely beneficial.
And having used a variety of different machines in the past, the wonderful thing about this is that, like, we had those 2 sets of black. Though the machine is smart enough to understand that that last black outline and this black owl are two different colors.
Things.
That doesn't happen when I do it in my software. When I do it in my software,
it would lump it.
It would lump those. So it would do, which in this case would be fine, but that's not always the case.
Right.
Sometimes when a design combines colors, it really doesn't do it well. And if you were to take this particular design and you would use the majority of machine software out there and you would do the option of combining colors.
Yep.
This would totally screw things up because
it would, or it would say no.
Right. So
it would either screw it up or it would just say, nope, I can't do it.
Right. So this machine would probably say I can't do it because of how the color's on there. Yep. I have used machines that are not smart enough to do that. It would combine, and because they only use 2 colors in here, it would combine all of those, which causes a giant mess. So depending on the age of your machine, what you do in your software, what brand, oh, look at my mattresses were delivered.
Hey!
Or one of my mattresses was delivered.
You know what you're doing when you get home.
Right? Slicing. But it can really mess things up when you let something color sort or combine colors for you.
So the system set up for color sort, because this machine and many others do have a color sort feature built into them. Mm-hmm. It will not allow you to color sort something that is layered.
Yes.
Which means that L is on top of that quilt square. That means it's layered, which means it would just pop up and say, nope, can't do it. Which means the machine's color sorting feature has been deactivated. It just says, nope, it can't do it. And it will flat out say, we can't do it because there's a layer something, or I don't remember the exact words, but it says no. Trust me, I've tried. So
and you're like, what?
Yeah. But
I know what I'm doing.
Obviously, there's a way around that.
Yes.
So it totally depends on how you put it in there.
Mm-hmm. And essentially the 9-step is combining steps.
Yes.
As opposed to colors.
Yep.
It's steps. So it takes all of the step number 1s and puts them together. And you can still see the individual colors. So it's smart enough to just ignore color and do steps, which is why it works.
Yep. It's
one of my time saver.
It is absolutely wonderful. And I have used it endlessly. It doesn't have to be 6. It doesn't have to be 4. It can be, I just need 2 of them. Mm-hmm. I don't ever use that copy button. I mean, I don't use the copy button. If I need more than one of something, I use that.
If I just had 2 L's on my screen.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. But I mean,
we don't ever do just that.
No, I don't ever do just that. But if I did, yes, I would just hit the copy button. But if I am doing 2 of anything, I use the 9-square button. And I do 2 of lots of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I can put more than 1 in my hoop at a time.
She fills hoops. It does, yes.
I like big hoops.
I cannot lie. Anyway, so the 9-square button is a phenomenal time saver. And it's not just a matter of, that you can get more in your hoop. It's literally thread changes and cutting and steps that it's taking out of, we all enjoy embroidery, but we all want to get more done in less time. So this is a huge, huge time saver.
Yeah.
So the copy feature is great if that's literally all you're doing. I need 2 L's and here's 1 and here's 2. Mm-hmm. That's great. But if it's got steps involved, you want to be using that 9-square so you can multiply them out and have access to that.
So we also have one new feature, which to point out would be a ridiculous option to do for this particular process. But if you are like me and you have put like maybe I'm designing something in my hoop and sometimes I have different pieces and parts because I pulled them in at different times. Yeah. And then I realized that I didn't pull them in the most
order that you wanted them stitched.
Right, in the most logical order. I just pulled them in. So
most of us have to jump around stitch numbers and saying, okay, now I need color number 12 and now I need to go back to color number 4 and whatever to get where you need to go.
Yes, we have a new feature. This is on a Luminaire, a Solaris, and this is on the new 3700. Is that on there?
I don't think so. It's on the multi-needle though.
On the multi-needle.
I don't think
feel like that was the new one of.
I don't remember that it's on there. But
so
that's okay. I don't know
maybe.
everything.
It's definitely on the multi-needles,
It's definitely on the multi-needle.
10 and 6?
I believe so.
Okay, so what this does is it gives you the option of moving your design around. So, and by moving your design around, I essentially mean, I'm really sorry to move this on you guys, but oh, that's nice and crooked, but you can kind of get the idea. So there are 2 options here. And then up here, I have arrows, and the arrows are asking me which direction do I want. Do I want to take the design from the bottom and move it to the top, or do I want to take the top from the design from the top and move it down? There are only 2 options in here.
But if we had 4 or 5, we could literally arrange them in whichever order we wanted them to be stitched in. So you simply swap,
Yep,
and it swaps. If you have more, then you have the ones that are grayed out. You have more movement options. They are all not grayed out. You have more movement options. And you can literally jump something that you have 4th to stitch first or whatever. And you say, I want you to stitch this one first. The one thing that it hasn't figured out how to do yet is to change color stop numbers within a design. It is entire designs that it moves.
Maybe that'll be in an upgrade.
Maybe.
Wouldn't that be nice?
This one does have, if you have upgraded with your scan and cut, so the luminaire only, does have the ability to no sew a number though.
Yes, this one does not.
So that is a really cool feature. I love that.
Maybe that will be something we show next week.
We could do that.
Yeah. All right, so.
All we have to do is figure it out. No, I'm just
do
kidding.
you have any other?
Copy, paste. No, I don't. I think that covered all of those things that we had talked about, isn't it?
I think so. We moved it.
We moved it. We copied it. We talked about how to jump around numbers if need be. Yeah, nope, I think that's all of it.
It really isn't hard. You just have to.
You gotta push the buttons, guys.
Push the buttons. Push the buttons. We like to push buttons. You should too. Right?
Hayden says to push your husband's buttons.
All right.
And he had that cheeky grin on his face while he said it.
Right now he's trying to find a box big enough.
That's a lot of stuff, isn't it?
Yep. All right.
A lot of stuff.
So let's.
So, I don't see any questions popping up. So
Quiet bunch today.
No. So that is probably one of my favorite little things about these machines. And again, if you have the ability to sew with your embroidery arm on, I think you have that button. And you might even have it otherwise, but I don't. I feel like it's not.
I have to go check the 3700.
I feel like it's not on the 3700. But she's going to go look right now. So you have a immediate answer. She's going to go push some buttons. Can you believe it? And she's got to turn the machine on first. Isn't that fantastic?
It was on.
You're welcome, Mom. So glad we could help you. My mom says, great information. So Sarah's got a design on the screen. She's got a letter on the screen. I think there's a color sort on there.
So that's regular color.
If you go all the way forward to embroidery, edit end, and embroidery, I think there's a color sort. But I think that's it.
Density.
She's still pushing buttons. Did you find any good ones? No.
Not yet.
So
Nope.
it appears.
Nope.
See, you need that embroidery sewing, sewing with the embroidery arm capability.
Yep. Actually, I don't know that that feature is on the. That's not on the Dream or the Meridian
Which
either.
one?
This one.
Oh no, that's not. That's
Yeah.
only on the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Do you have anything else?
I do not have anything else, and if there are no questions, you are all free to. No.
You've been dismissed.
You've been dismissed. Thanks for joining us today. We will be shooting out some emails this afternoon with some wonderful goodies availability. And
Yeah, there might be a couple emails coming this week. We haven't sent out
we
newsletter
have
yet.
a newsletter, which hopefully we'll be telling you all about what great sales are going to be here this month. As soon as we figure them out, we will let you know. And cup of cheer. And if you are in my class tomorrow and Friday, you'll get links this afternoon. And I'm having some major computer issues, so I sat too close to Sarah, and my computer's not cooperating. But the links for the videos are coming sooner or later, but unfortunately it'll probably be later. But I'll get you the Zoom links ASAP, and then we'll get the videos as they
Is that a video for the second day?
maybe.
It's gonna be.
We'll see. Maybe that will be on a Friday because that gives me 3 more days
You've
to
got
go.
days, right? Right? That's why you have me to help rearrange your schedule.
The videos are all taken. They're just not edited,
Edited.
and ability to exit out of my computer and into the la la land of space and time and internet. Have a great one. Thanks for stopping in today, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.